Good morning, everyone. The date is Tuesday, August 9th, 2022. The time is now 9:01 or 9 o'clock, really. We continue to deal with the health emergency in the state of California, so the board is using the WebEx teleconferencing format for today's meeting. So whether you're participating by the web or by the teleconferencing portion of that format, we thank you for logging in virtually. We also have folks here in the chambers as well. So we'll thank you for doing that. For the public comment period, if you're online, you can use the raise your hand feature or get the clerk's attention. And for those members here in the audience, please fill out a speaker's card and we'll take them in the order they're received by the clerk. So thank you very much for that. Each vote today will be verbal or a voice vote so that members of the public can hear how each board member has voted. So we will have the item, have discussion, have a motion and a second, and then roll call vote. So in order to establish a quorum, I'm going to ask the clerk to now please call the roll.
Joe Nevs.
Here.
Richard Valley.
Here.
Doug Verboon.
Here.
Craig Peterson.
Here.
Richard Fagundes.
Here. Thank you, Madam Clerk. We have 5 members present. We have established quorum. We will be able to conduct business today. If you can all please rise as we invite Pastor Andrew Cromwell of Koinonia Church forward to deliver the invocation and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning, sir. Thank you for being here.
You just bow your heads, we'll pray. God, we pause this morning just to say thank you for life and for another day. We invoke your name today, acknowledging that we are not you. We are not God. We are not divine. We are human. And we need wisdom and grace from heaven for all the things that we're facing today. And there are so many. And so, Lord, I just ask for this meeting, for every person that's involved today, in person, online, that your power, your grace, your strength, and your wisdom would be their portion, Lord, wherever we need a touch from heaven. We're just asking for it today. And we pause, Lord, to remember our students as they go back to school in this season. We thank you for all of the teachers, administrators, all those that are involved in the school system who are caring for our students in this season. We pray for the students in particular, Lord, who are coming back after the summertime. Would you grace them, Lord? Would you grace each and every one with the ability to learn and receive what they need? Lord, for all of the issues that they're facing in their life at home, we know so many of them are challenged. God, we pray today that your strength would be with every teacher and every principal and every administrator to be able to give them what they need in this season. And Lord, we pray for students that would be bright and intelligent and good looking in this Kings County. We thank you for these things and we pray in your name. Amen.
Amen. And now join me as we honor America by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the United States and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is unscheduled appearances. Any person may directly address the board at this time on any item on the agenda or any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of this board. Speakers will be limited to 2 minutes. And does the clerk have a record of anyone that would like to address the board under unscheduled?
I do. The first speaker card is Rebecca Bell.
Good morning, Rebecca. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. Long time no see. Anyway, I was doing some research in regards to the Boswell and Vidovich kind of thing, or Vidovici. I don't know how to pronounce it, but anyway, where they're going for like the water wars. How is it possible that somebody can own water rights and be a member of a board when they decide what should be done with the water? I mean, wouldn't that be conflict of interest? I mean, I understand them being members of it to decide other things, but they should not have any judgment because I just found out that Vidovich he controls the Tulare Lake Reclamation District. So he's not only buying up the lands and with the water rights, but he's also members of the boards that are deciding what is use of the water. So it's in between Boswell. So Boswell also owns, he does the Kings River water. So, and it's, so you have these several entities. So you have 3 different entities that are in control of the water for the San Joaquin Valley. I couldn't even find it, but who's above that to make sure that they do everything that is fair, because it's special interest. If you see where I'm going with this, because I automatically thought that people, if they own something, they cannot vote on it. They have to exclude themselves from it, but they're both having some sort of water rights to where they judge it. So you have one person tapping into the pipelines and they say, oh, no, 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 you can't do that. You can't tap into it. I always thought that there was an organization that you need to belong into the districts. Like say 4 different districts are tapping into the same water source. If you got somebody from the outside trying to tap into that, you have to have permission from all the other 4 before you can do that. So who is making sure this is not going to happen where you don't have a member that's tapping into it? Because cattle actually is one of the most water usage commodities in the world. I mean, sure, I was told that Lemoore actually voted against it, except when they said that they weren't, as long as that they weren't going to have the cows on site. So then that's when they actually approved it, but it's still large water usage. So what's going to happen to that water when it's going to be taken away from the people's supply? So, I mean,
Thank you, Rebecca. Diane, you want to just respond?
Yeah, I will respond and say that there are a lot of governmental entities out there that are local governmental entities called districts, and the county does not necessarily have jurisdiction over their actions or independent governmental agencies. But what you've tapped on today are very complex issues that are being grappled with in Kings County. We can have further discussions outside of this forum if you want additional information. But I appreciate you raising issues that are very important to Kings County.
okay, because we're the Dust Bowl. We're no longer the agricultural city or the county of the world. So, thank you.
Thank you.
The next speaker is Josh Cunningham.
Morning, Josh.
Morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Give you a quick update on your fire department. We got a little break this last week and a lot of the rigs came home. They were up in the McKinney fire up in Northern California. In fact, 8 people and 2 engines came home on Friday, and I turned around and sent them those same 2 engines back out on Saturday or Sunday morning. There's now a complex up in Siskiyou County on the 6 rivers. It consists of 12 fires. Right now, it's only 6,700 acres, but there's 0% containment. So we have 2 engines on the 6 rivers complex, lightning complex. And then we still have a couple battalion chiefs up on the McKinney fire as they start to wind that down. We're expecting them to come home in the next 6 to 10 days. That fire is currently at 60,389 acres and 55% contained. So we're hoping to slow down a little bit and get some troops home and let them rest up. And we do have a couple people that keep signing up to go over and over again, and they've pretty much been gone since the first part of July. So good news for us, working with HR and Carolyn Least and her staff, mainly Melissa. We created a lateral transfer position for fire apparatus engineer. We ran our first recruitment at that position. And so basically it's bringing an engineer in qualified to drive and pump and not bringing them at the entry level. And the requirements are we have to bring them in. They have to be off probation in a California fire organization as a fire apparatus engineer. And we were lucky enough to steal 2 people from another agency. So we're pretty excited about that. They started yesterday, was their first day. So we have some new employees out there. It's going to be a little smaller of a academy because they come to us with experience. So we're expecting them to hit the floor and give us some relief at the stations within 4 weeks. So I do want to just reiterate, HR staff worked really hard on this. It wasn't something we could just pull out of the air. It was a lot of time. Melissa, the chief, myself, and Carolyn and Henny worked on for a while. So thank you, Carolyn, for your staff. That's it if there's any questions.
We don't steal employees, we just reappropriate them. Yeah, we just change the designation. Yeah, we don't steal people, really.
I'll note that for the next time we reappropriate into our department.
Exactly.
Where'd they come from? Where'd you get them from?
One came from the Tule River Indian Reservation Fire Department, and the other one came from the North Central Fire Protection District. So, thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Madam Clerk, you have any other?
That's all the speaker cards I have, but I do understand that James Brownyard is online and wants to speak. Is he muted? If you can unmute yourself, Mr. Brownyard.
Can you hear me now?
Turn the volume up. Try it again.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, he's waving.
You muted yourself again.
It's mute.
Very good.
You good?
Okay. My comment is for something that's on the agenda later. It's not for now. It's not an open discussion.
Something about maybe it's not the time for the item that he was intending to speak on.
Correct. My issue is with the development impact fees that you're going to talk about later. Not
Okay.
open for now.
Thank you for that clarification. That's all that I have.
Very good. Last call for anybody in chambers. Like to address the board under unscheduled? See no one come forward. We'll close out scheduled appearances and move to the next item, which is approval of the minutes from the August 2nd meeting. Have board members had an opportunity to review?
If there are no question or comments, I move approval. Verboen.
Second.
Moved by Verboen, seconded by Peterson. Additional questions or comments? Hearing or seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
I'll abstain.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes. Let the record show 4 members in favor, 1 abstention. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is the consent calendar, and all items under the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted by one motion. The request of any board member, any item may be removed and made part of the regular agenda. Are there any questions or comments on the consent calendar?
There are no questions, comments, move for approval.
Moved by Fagundes.
Second, Verboen.
Seconded by Verboen. Additional follow-up? Hearing or seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboon.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes. Let the record show the consent calendar stands approved, 5 in favor. Thank you very much, everyone. Now we're going to move into regular agenda items, and the first one coming from the Community Development Agency and a report on the Planning Commission's actions. Good morning, Mr. Kinney.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Chuck Kinney with Community Development Agency. Coming to report on the actions from the August 1st Planning Commission meeting. They had one item of business that night. It was conditional use permit 22-01 for Utica Avenue Solar. And it is a solar project that is proposing to generate 3 megawatts of solar power, including battery storage, on approximately 29 acres on assessor parcel number 048-030-050, which is located 2.8 miles east of I-5 on the south side of Utica Avenue. The commission unanimously approved the project, and there was very little comments added by the public. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Kinney. Questions, comments, or concerns?
Want a motion on this? I'll make a motion to approve as presented, and there's no one living out there. That's why no one commented. There's only one trailer out there.
Trailer?
Yeah. Where they're doing the solar system.
At Utica.
On Utica.
How many notifications were out there?
Oh, I don't know how many notifications went out.
Yeah, there's probably not
Nothing
that.
out there.
Yeah,
There's not much out there.
No.
Yeah.
We notified the property owners mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The item's been moved by Verboen, seconded by Fagundes to accept the monthly report on the planning commission's actions. Is there further questions or comments? Will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley, Doug Verboen,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Let the record show the planning commission actions have been approved, 5 in favor. Thank you very much. The next item on the regular agenda items comes from the fire department and a discussion on an agreement for fire services with the city of Avenel. Good morning, Chief.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Bill Lynch, Kings County Fire Department. Here this morning with an item to bring before your board for a retroactive agreement with the city of Avenel for fire services. As you know, Kings County Fire Department and the city of Avenel have had a constructive agreement for many, many years where we provide fire protection services to the city. This current agreement was a one-year agreement. It ran its time and was expired on June 30th, 2022. So I'm here this morning to ask for a retroactive agreement back to July 1st, 2022, and this current contract will run through June 30th of 2023. And if you can see from the chart on page 2 of the agenda item, it is a status quo amount, so they will continue to pay the $400,000 that they paid last year. And I would be happy to answer any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Chief. Questions, comments, or concerns?
No questions, comments, move for approval.
Moved by Fagundes.
I'll second. Do you have any comments there? It's retroactive. Greg?
Yeah. Another right, there's like 2 more.
Biting my lip.
This contract has been approved by county council and been through the city of Avenel council.
Late.
Well, that's why I'm late. That I should.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments? The items have been moved by Fagundes, seconded by Verboen. And if all discussion has ceased, I'm going to ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboen,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Let the record show that agreement stands approved, 5 in favor. Thank you very much. Good luck. The next item comes from Human Resources Department, and there are a couple of different items. And good morning, Carolyn.
Good morning, Chairman, members of the board. Carolyn Lees, Human Resources Director. I'm here with 2 items today. The first one is regarding the agreement with NFP Retirement Incorporated. The county's Deferred Compensation Oversight Committee administers the county's deferred compensation plan and contracts through the Board of Supervisors with consultants to assist with the administration of the plan. The county is contracted with the NFP Retirement Incorporated, formerly known as SST Benefits Consulting, since October 2001 for the purpose of providing consulting services to the committee. NFP assists with the administration of the plan, including but not limited to investment options, investment performance evaluation, requests for proposals from third-party plan providers, and other matters related to the plan. The Deferred Compensation Oversight Committee recommends to approve the agreement with NFP Retirement Incorporated for administrative services to the county's deferred compensation plan retroactively, effective from January 1st, 2019 through December 31st, 2024. There is no fiscal impact. These costs are offset by revenues received in the Human Resources budget from the Kings County 457 Plan Administrative Allowance Account. During this contract period in 2018-19, the cost was $14,500. In 2019-2020, it was $50,500. And I want to note that that was when we did an RFP for the Mission Square retirement. In 2020-2021, it was $11,000. And in 2021-2022, it was $9,500. For the remaining fiscal years of this contract, the anticipated costs are expected not to exceed $50,000 per fiscal year. However, the costs could fluctuate based on funds available in the 457 Plan Administrative Allowance Account and the recommendations of the Deferred Compensation Oversight Committee. Exhibit A of the contract provides the services that are offered through NFP. And Bill Taga has joined me today. If there are any questions, hopefully he and I can answer them for you.
Very good. Thank you. Questions, comments, or concerns? Supervisor Valley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning. The question is probably for Mr. Hill and staff, but can you just clarify on the 2 million out of the ARPA funds? Is this something that we're already made aware of, or does this affect the total balance after the board approved the $6 million for small business grants 2 or 3 weeks ago?
Supervisor Valley through the chair, that's the next item. This one is on the NFP deferred compensation contract number 1.
Yeah, and this is just the first one.
But the answer to your question is that does not impact that. And we'll just get ahead of that question now. That does not impact that. 2
Okay, I
million.
got confused.
Yeah.
when She was talking about the retroactive pay and reading the background memo on what's going to cover some of that.
Two different items. That's the
Okay.
next item.
Okay.
If there's no question or comments, I'll move approval as presented.
Second.
Moved by Verboen, seconded by Fagundes. Additional questions or comments? Hearing or seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboen, Craig Peterson, Richard Fagundes.
Yes. That item stands approved retroactively, 5 in favor. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Back there.
Yeah.
That'd be
Not-
COVID.
Not her fault, though.
Yeah. Carolyn, would you like to continue and talk about the next item?
Yes, I would. The salary resolution is periodically updated to reflect negotiated agreements with bargaining units, classification and compensation changes, and the addition of deletion of positions. The salary resolution was recently approved by the board on July 26, 2022. This update reflects the 3% cost of living increase for all bargaining units, unrepresented management, including department heads, appointed department heads, and elected officials, assessor clerk recorder, district attorney, and sheriff, and Board of Supervisors salaries remain consistent with the Kings County Ordinance number 690. The recommendation is to authorize the Human Resources Director to sign the side letter agreements with the Blue Collar Unit, Deputy Sheriff's Association, Detentions Deputy Association, Firefighters Association, General Unit, Probation Officers Association, Prosecutors Association, and Supervisors Unit for a 3% cost of living increase effective December 26, 2022, which is pay period 1 of 2023. Approve a 3% cost of living increase for unrepresented management, including department heads, appointed department heads, and elected officials, which are the assessor, clerk reporter, district attorney, and sheriff, effective December 26, 2022. Approve the salary resolution, which reflects the salary changes as recommended. The total cost of the implementation of the 3% cost of living increases for the remainder of the fiscal year is estimated to be $4,848,027. The general fund impacts is approximately $1,939,211. A portion of the total cost will be paid for out of the American Rescue Plan Act, funding the amount of $2 million. The final adopted budget includes an additional $2 million revenue transfer in from the American Rescue Plan Act Trust into Budget Unit 110910 and currently sits in general contingencies. However, the current adopted budget does not include the salary increase. It is important to note that all of the bargaining groups are in current MOU contracts. We met and conferred with all of them and do have the signed side letter agreements that were attached with the agenda. And we want to thank admin and the board for moving forward with this item. So thank you.
Very good. Thanks. Questions, comments, concerns? Now you want to ask your?
Yes, sir. You got Mr.
Now, Mr. Hill, you want to answer the question?
I want to make sure I understand. Could you please restate it?
Yes, so the 2 million that's outlined under the fiscal impact out of our ARPA fund account, is that before the board took action on 6 million for small business grants? Or is this going to deduct from the remaining balance of our ARPA account after we approve the 6 million for small businesses?
This will be an additional expense that will decrease that amount. If approved, it'll bring the available balance for ARPA to 3.6 million remaining.
And just to refresh my memory, I guess, so the 2 million, we were already aware the 2 million is being part of the funding formula to make this whole.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure I
The board
understand.
was already made aware that the 2 million in the funding formula was going to come from ARPA funds to make this whole?
Correct.
Okay, thanks. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, comments, or concerns?
If there's no question or comments, I'll move approval as presented.
And I'll second and just get ahead to say that this doesn't impact the Board of Supervisors salary either. Thank you.
Moved by Verboen, seconded by Valley. Additional questions, comments, or clarifications? Hearing or seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboen,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes. Let the record show the item stands approved, 5 in favor. Thank you very much. Thank you, Carolyn. The next couple of items come from the Health Department. First one is to consider discussing an agreement with Valley Voices. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Everardo Legaspi with Public Health. And also present today is Nicholas Montoya. He is the program manager in charge of the Epidemiology and Laboratory Capacity Grant Funding. This morning, I bring forth an agreement with Valley Voices to provide COVID-19 education and prevention services due to the continued presence of the COVID-19 virus in Kings County. On July 26, 2022, your board directed the term of the new agreement with Valley Voices to be modified from a 12-month agreement retroactive to July 1st, 2022, to a 6-month agreement retroactive to July 1st, 2022, ending on December 31st, 2022. On July 28th, 2022, a sole source justification was submitted to and approved by the purchasing manager to modify a sole source approved on July 6th, 2022, and remove language specifying 12 months of service. Additionally, at your board's request, we are working with the purchasing manager to finalize a competitive bidding process through a request for proposals for COVID-19 related services needed after December 31st, 2022. The cost for fiscal year 2022-23 is $339,684. The expenditure appropriation and revenues are included in the Department of Public Health's fiscal year 2022-23 adopted budget unit 401200, account 92047. We respectfully request your board to approve the agreement with Valley Voices for COVID-19 education and prevention services retroactively effective July 1st, 2022 to December 31st, 2022, and authorize the Director of Public Health to amend the agreement for non-substantiative and non-financial contractual changes without requiring further board approval. This concludes my report, and we are happy to answer any questions.
Good. Thank you. Questions, comments?
Yes, Mr.
Supervisor
Chairman,
Valley?
just one. When are you going to open up the RFP?
So we have it drafted. We need to review it. So possibly within a week or so, just to get that process going as soon as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Additional questions or comments? This is an action item. Chair will entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve as presented.
I'll second, Mr. Chair.
Moved by Verboen, seconded by Valley. Additional questions or comments? Hearing or seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboen,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
No.
Richard Fagundes.
Let the record show the item stands approved. 4 in favor, 1 no. Thank you very much. Good luck. The other item from the Health Department is to receive an update on the local health emergency. Good morning.
Good morning, Chairman, Supervisors, Rosemary Rand, Department of Public Health. I'm here to give you a COVID update. The total number of COVID cases for the last 2 weeks was 838 cases. There is a slight lag as the state is updating their data later today. The previous 2-week period I reported was 1,244 cases. Overall, the case numbers remain higher, although less than what reported the last 2 weeks. Majority of samples sequenced in Kings County in the month of this month have been Omicron subvariant BA.5, which is consistent with sequencing across other parts of California. The BA.5 subvariant is contributing to reinfections even among people who had an earlier infection with another Omicron variant. Kings County remains in the high orange classification for community transmission, according to the Communicable Centers for Disease Control, and the Valley is mixed in moderate and high classification, so that kind of indicates there's a transition. The current local hospitalizations are at 22, although 15 of those are Kings County residents, 1 in the ICU and 14 in med-surg. So this week's a little bit of a bump up. However, the daily patient average has been 8.6 for the last 2 weeks. Testing continues in the county at various locations and also at Public Health. In the last 2 weeks, there were a total of 1,362 tests done, and a total of 3,597 total for the county, with a 21.4% positivity. This is a slight reduction from my last report. We continue to hand out rapid antigen test kits to residents, businesses, and agencies to provide. As far as vaccinations, over the last 2 weeks, 1,176 vaccines were given in Kings County, and 182 at the health department. As children are returning to school, we've seen an increase in families seeking childhood immunizations as well as COVID vaccinations for their kids. Residents can get vaccinated at the health department, local pharmacies, and several pop-up clinics around the county. And the current schedule is on our website. For additional information and the COVID-19 report is at kcdph.com. And as always, would like to remind everyone to stay home when you're sick, get tested if experiencing COVID-like symptoms, and get vaccinated or boosted if you've not. Masks continue to provide protection, and we strongly recommend wearing them in crowded settings. Masks are still required in healthcare settings. We are seeing a few outbreaks in workplaces where people have a large number and then they'll hold people off and come back. I do want to give a couple updates beyond COVID on West Nile virus and monkeypox before I end. For West Nile virus, mosquitoes that carry the West Nile virus have been identified in Kings County. That was early in July. We currently have one confirmed case that we did a press release on July 15th, but we have two probable cases, one neuroinvasive that resulted in a death and one non-neuroinvasive that we're still waiting for the state confirmation on. We should be getting that confirmation this week. It takes a couple weeks for them to process the lab testing on that. So we'd really like to remind people that there are a lot of mosquitoes with West Nile virus. Wear mosquito repellent, be especially careful in the early morning hours. And then at dusk, when mosquitoes are out, wear DEET or long sleeves. But they're vicious. They can bite through your sleeves too, because I've had them bite through my long sleeve. So just be cautious and be aware that we do have those mosquitoes. And I know Tulare County's had some cases and it's starting to increase. Mosquito abatement is aware and is also vigilant. And also if you know of any green pools, they have mosquito fish that they can come out and let loose to get rid of mosquito production. Also any standing water around your house, we recommend getting rid of that as well. As for monkeypox, there are currently 1,310 probable and confirmed cases in California. Statewide cases have increased substantially. There are 0 cases in Kings County, but 20 positive cases among the surrounding counties in the Central Valley. Last week, the state of California declared an emergency related to monkeypox in order to facilitate resources, vaccine, testing, and staff to local health jurisdictions with high number of cases. Los Angeles, San Francisco, Alameda, and Sacramento are the top 4 counties with cases. Based on the information available, the current risk of monkeypox to the public remains very low. It's a subset population. So that concludes my report. If you have any questions, I am available.
Very good. Thank you. Questions, comments, updates?
No comment from me. I do have a couple questions, but I'll save them for later.
You're going to save them? Any updates on, will they require a 4th booster?
Well, what we're thinking is going to happen, we haven't received notification from that, is when you get your annual flu vaccine, that there'll probably be some sort of vaccination at that point that would be a booster dose. Might be the same high dose we've been getting.
So it'd be 1 shot or 2 shots?
Right now, they're saying 1.
Oh, really?
So we'll see.
For flu.
If you've been vaccinated, I'm kind of curious if you've never been vaccinated, if it'll only be 1 shot.
Yeah.
So I'd
that
have
would
to
be,
go back and research
that
that.
would be kind of strange.
Yeah, but if you have been already vaccinated, it would only be like an annual booster.
Yeah.
But we anticipate COVID is here forever.
Correct.
So
And when will the seasonal flu vaccines be available?
hopefully the end of September, it depends on when we get a shipment from the state. For sure, October, we usually have it. So,
Good.
and we are already starting to plan flu clinics. People are requesting things. So.
Good, good. Additional questions, comments?
There, yes, Mr. Chair, there is no J&J left. in
No
Kings
longer
County.
any J&J, and we are not receiving any. I'm not sure if any pharmacies still carry them, but the state had kind of moved away from them.
Okay, thank you.
Got a little pumping through my veins.
Huh?
Got a little pumping through my veins.
Draw it out,
There you go. We could use it. as
separate it
a-
out. Good, thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.
All right, we're early for the budget at 10, so why don't we go ahead and move to board member announcements and reports, and we'll go ahead and get that, take care of those items. So on their own initiative, board members can make a brief announcements on their own activities. Supervisor Fagundes.
I'm good.
You're good? We know you're good, but do you have anything to talk about?
Well, I know that was the wrong comment. That was the wrong comment.
Well, good, thank you. Thanks for being here.
The way I could state it.
Supervisor Valley.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as you know, I was gone last week, took a vacation, and so I'm still trying to get the cobwebs off my brain and feel a little bit rusty here this morning. I think I missed out on a couple of things, but be back firing on all cylinders next week, promise. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Supervisor Verboen.
Last Thursday, we spent most of the day here with Board of Equalization, and then I think on Wednesday, I drove around with people from New York, showed them the water wars, and they're doing a documentary on when the wells go dry. So I showed them around where the water should go and where it's going, and been about 6 hours with them. And then on Friday, I went and toured the sheriff's new headquarters. Very nice. Be very proud. It's a nice place. We need to cover the stairs eventually, but we'll do that before it rains. Might be a couple years. You might have plenty of time.
We got the budget coming up here at 10 o'clock. Let's hit the podium. Might move some things.
Are you all the way in there right now? Okay, very good. You know, I thought it was really interesting to show the history of the county with the first sheriff's car in the real room and all the guns and some of the stuff that was confiscated with crimes over the years. Really cool. And I like their little display. It makes it nice. Brings the community, you know, if you have to go to the sheriff's office, you're going to upset, you're a victim of a crime, or you're being accused of something. So this is kind of nice to go in there and see what has happened and transpired over all the years. Sheriff made a comment the other day that we've only had 3 sheriff's operations buildings in the time we've been in office. So 50 years is about the time span for our sheriff's office. So for operations office. So it's kind of cool. A lot of history. And I don't know how many sheriffs we had back in 1893, but we have a lot more now. But it was kind of cool. A lot of old deputies that I knew over my years, not from being arrested, but you know, one thing used to come by and talk to me. So very cool. So
How many of them chased you?
Yeah.
I only got chased by one.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
You catch him.
He didn't catch me.
It was a catch and release program.
Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
Well, good.
Probably a little tax on that too, you know.
Yeah.
Lack of paid.
Statute of limitations is out
Illusion of-
anyway, so it don't matter. Supervisor Peterson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Was it, yeah, oh, no. Yeah, it was a time coming back from Tulare.
Yeah.
Meanwhile.
Yeah. Meanwhile,
at
back at,
No, Mr. Chairman, just some pertinent comments made today here at the board with respect to water and, you know, the concerns we all have with water and you know, I a little concerned that, you know, here we are in the throes of the drought and for some reason the Water Commission can't find a reason to meet. I would like to see them come together a little more often. It's been way too long. We have far too many issues to address, and one of the issues that was brought up today was, you know, who's in control, and while you know, there are historical rights with respect to water supplies, surface water supplies. The 5 of us have the opportunity to protect groundwater, and I think that's something that is missing from this board, and we need to have further discussions on. I don't think we can wait because it's one thing to talk about, you know, the core of this county, which is agriculture, but there are far more citizens that live here that are going to be affected by this. And every day we're losing wells, whether they're agriculture or residential, and you know, it's the responsibility, you know, it's a responsibility we have. You know, it falls under the health and safety code established in California, and you know, these are difficult discussions, but we need to have some sort of roadmap prepared for what's occurring, and today we don't. So with that, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. And for me, the First Five Commission held their meeting, first meeting in quite a while to be in person. We reviewed the minutes and the fiscal reports, and also had a report on GLOW, a group prenatal care and support program. This program will bring together pregnant individuals for medical care, risk assessment, group support and information just to help through those difficult pregnancies or or just a normal pregnancy, really for a lot of expectant moms to get them better prepared for parenthood. Also reviewed the final achievement report for the 2021-2022 fiscal year. And then the spotlight on service was United Cerebral Palsy and the role that they serve in the community. Rosemary and I had the ability to go to the Health Center Appreciation Week that was held at the United Health Center in Lemoore. Had a great lunch, had a great tour of the operation. The Hanford office also opened up yesterday across from the Hanford Mall. And so United Health Centers has a pretty aggressive plan to open up health centers really throughout the valley. And they're about a 50-year-old organization that just continues to build and improve healthcare, dental, chiropractic, just a full range of services brought to a lot of rural communities. And so want to thank them. Also participated in the operations open house over at the Kings County Sheriff's Department. They never ran out of cookies, so that's probably good. They had plenty of good stuff there. It's a nice addition to the law enforcement community of the county, and hopefully it'll last another 50 years. So good luck with that. Calviva night at the Fresno Grizzlies. Calviva was there along with the many other health organizations, again celebrating Health Center Appreciation Week. CHP was there handing out bicycle helmets, getting ready for the school year. And there were several groups handing out books and backpacks. So a nice evening to be at the Fresno Grizzlies. And then got an email, the Central California Blood Center is in need of donations. So the Blood Center will be on campus on August 29th from 9 to 1. If you happen to be ready or getting ready, available to donate blood, they will readily take that. And then just for planning purposes, the Battle of the Badges will happen in November. And then we have another event scheduled in January, all keeping within that 8-week schedule. So if you're out of sync with that, please continue with how you donate blood now. Or if you want to get back in sync and be able to participate in these local events, I'm sure you can roll up your sleeves and we'll take every pint that you have. If you do donate, I think this month you still get the pint for pint through Baskin Robbins. So those are available just as a little more incentive. With that, that wraps up board member announcements. Mr. Hill, you want to talk about board correspondence, upcoming events, and information on future agenda items?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. For board correspondence, your board received an invitation to the 10th annual Links for Life Pink Passion Picnic, which will take place on October 19th, 2022 at the Hanford Civic Auditorium. Tickets are $30. We'll be adding this to the regular event announcements moving forward. For upcoming events, King's Partnership is hosting Business Happy Hour on Tuesday, August 9th from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. at the Hanford Chamber office. The cost is free for members and $5 for non-members. The Kings County Office of Education will have its ribbon cutting ceremony and grand opening of their newest facility, the Kings County Early Learning Center, on Wednesday, August 10th at 4 p.m. at 146 West Highland Street in Hanford. The center will provide an environment where our special education and general education preschoolers have an opportunity for early integration, learning alongside one another. The National Guard Bureau of Department of the Air Force invite the public to learn about a proposal to locate F-35A aircraft at Lemoore Naval Air Station. An informational meeting to learn more about this proposal, and ask questions and submit comments will be held Wednesday, August 10th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the LTA Portuguese Hall located at 470 Champion Street in Lemoore. There'll also be a virtual meeting on Thursday, August 25th from 5:30 to 6:30. The City of Avenal and Self-Help Enterprise will be hosting a rental and utilities workshop for those impacted by COVID-19 on August 17th from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the Avenal Recreation Center located at 717 East Monterey Street in Avenal. For more information, please call 559-802-1600. There will be 3 SB 1383 organic waste and recycling workshops that will highlight implementation here at the county, where the public will be informed about the requirements of this bill. The dates are as follows. Tuesday, August 23rd at Central Union School District, 15783 18th Avenue in Lemoore from 5:30 to 7 p.m. Wednesday, August 24th from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Pioneer Union Elementary School at 8810 14th Avenue in Hanford, California. And Thursday, August 25th from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. at the City of Corcoran Council Chambers at 1015 Chittenden Avenue in Corcoran, California. We will also be adding this information to our website and also ask others to push this out on their department websites as well as any social media and likely do a press release as well. The Hanford Chamber of Commerce will be hosting a pickleball tournament on Saturday, August 27th at 7 p.m. at the Hanford Pickleball Courts located at 1010 West Grangefield Boulevard. Registration is $60 per team, and one of the players must be employed by a local business. The Central California Blood Center has contacted Kings County because their blood supplies are critically low. Kings County employees value our partnership with the Blood Center, therefore we have scheduled another blood drive. Please consider donating blood, the gift of life, on Monday, August 29th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Buses will be here on campus. There will be 2 additional dates in the future for Battle of the Badges as announced earlier by Supervisor Neves in November. The Rotary Club of Hanford will host its golf tournament at the Kings County Country Club on Monday, September 12th from 10:30 to 5:30. Space is limited to 120 players. Reservations on first paid basis. Proceeds for this event will be split among areas veteran services organizations. The 10th annual Light of Hope Elite Cocktail event will take place on Saturday, September 24th at 5:30 p.m. at the Hanford Civic Auditorium. Kings County Special Olympics will be having their chili cook-off on Saturday, September 24th at the Hanford Civic Park. Vendors and teams are needed, so please email kingscountyspecialolympics@gmail.com for information and details. As mentioned at last week's board meeting, Operation Greenlight shows support for our veterans of all military conflicts with special emphasis on the veterans of Iraq and Afghanistan, as well as raise awareness about the challenges faced by many veterans and the resources that are available to them in the county, state, and federal levels to assist veterans and their families. This coming Veterans Day, we can show our support for veterans by lighting our buildings green from November 6th to November 12th. By shining a green light, county governments, businesses, and our residents will let those know that we support our troops. We are planning something here at the county complex, and we'll provide more information as we get close to that date. For upcoming agenda items, the Agri Department has 2 items for consideration: an approval with an agreement with CDFA for Asian citrus psyllid detection, and a consideration for approval agreement with CDFA for European grapevine moth detection program. Behavioral Health has 1 item, consideration for approval of an advanced step hire for clinical program manager. Fire has 1 item for consideration regarding the approval of state Homeland Security grant program subrecipient agreements. Health has 1 item for consideration regarding the tuberculosis control program real-time allotment funding. Human Services Agency has 2 items, consideration for approval of agreement with Shared Vision Consultants Incorporated for consulting and facilitation services, and consideration to approve an agreement with Cal State Fresno and Cal State Bakersfield for internship field placement. JTO has 1 item for consideration regarding the Kings County Small Business Assistant Program Request Contract Authority. And Probation has 1 item for consideration regarding pretrial services funding, Senate Bill 129. That concludes my report. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Questions or comments from Mr. Hill? We're still a few minutes early. Do we have time to take up the workers' comp claims in closed session, or you want to save those? You only have 10 minutes.
We should probably save those.
Save them?
Yes.
Okay. Why don't we take a 10-minute break then, and we can't get started with the public hearings as far as the fiscal budget until 10 o'clock, so we'll stand in recess until 10. Thank you very much, everyone. Minute warning. And so the time is now 10 o'clock on August 9th, continuation of today's meeting. And we're going to go to administration to introduce the budget. And then I guess we'll do the public hearing after the introduction. So, Mr. Hill, would you like to begin the discussion?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to turn this portion of the presentation over to Assistant County Administrative Officer Kiri Martinez.
Hello, board members. Kyria Martinez. The Board of Supervisors adopted the recommended fiscal year 22-23 budget on June 14th. The final budget hearing is scheduled to begin today at 10 a.m. At the close of the budget hearing, the board will be asked to adopt the final fiscal year 22-23 final budget. Staff presents the final budget for your board's consideration. The county must adopt the adopted budget resolution to the State Controller's Office by October 2nd of the current fiscal year. The spending plan for Kings County is $423,808,041. The budget, as prepared under board direction, is balanced. At this time, we ask the board to open the budget hearing.
Very good. We're together here this morning to take testimony regarding the 2022-2023 budget for Kings County. And with that, the budget hearings are now declared open.
This morning, we will present an overview of the budget process, some basic assumptions, highlight some major changes from the recommended to the final budget. We will go over the budget equation, show some general fund history, some percent increases over the past year, some budget charts, and the additional positions added to this budget, and contested budgets, which we have none. Any questions, and then final action. So for the current fiscal year, we started the budget process in January. We hold an annual budget training for all fiscal staff and staff responsible for the budget. We have deadlines on form submissions, which include request of capital assets, information technology requests, vehicles, salary positions. All those are due to administration by March 12th of the year. And administration staff meets with all departments between March 15th through April. By June, we brought to your board the recommended budget to have a spending authority. And today we are holding the final budget hearing. Here on this slide, we have the impacts of the general fund for what is budgeted next year. These are only impacts to the general fund. We know that our Prop 172 increased 1.2 million over last year's. Proposition 172 funds already required 1/2 cent sales tax. They're reserved for public safety purposes. Our public safety department, the district attorney, fire, and sheriff rely heavily on these revenues as they do make up a good chunk of their revenue. This is great news, but also that increase is also considered one-time funds. These funds are really what helped offset general fund increases from those public safety departments. Additionally, our general fund revenues increased by 2.5 million alone from last year's adopted budget. That's a 4% increase from last year's adopted budget, which is great. It's showing that our revenues are keeping up. On the expense side, again, these are just a few highlights of our increase in our budget. The defense of the accused contracts, we increased those by 4%. We do not have a public defender's office, so we do contract out with 26 defense attorneys. So that is included in the final budget. Our consolidated courts is the top 5 highest general fund drawdown at a 3.5 net county cost. Additionally, we also gave raises to all bargaining units with a 3% cost of living effective in July, which was additional 4.1 million that was included in our budget. Today we had a salary resolution to approve an additional 3% cost of living adjustment in December, and that will be a budget change in the upcoming months. Lastly, we have our CalPERS annual retirement costs. Our total employer cost, including unfunded liability for the year, is 1.6 million increase over last year. We're currently scheduled to pay off both miscellaneous and safety CalPERS for a total cost of 10.2 for employer cost only. Does not include 16.2 for unfunded liability. These are just estimates from our actuary report. So for next year, the county is paying 26.4 million in retirement costs alone.
Could I ask a question there?
Yes.
With respect to the CalPERS increase, what percentage of performance that's backfilling? So it's obviously a negative performance with respect to.
So currently we're funded at 73% for both. That unfunded liability, we started paying it about 4 or 5 years ago. So again, we're scheduled to pay it off in a few years. So eventually that will kind of fall off. But until then, it's kind of an ongoing cost.
Right. When, I mean, 73% is a good number, right? I mean, if you look across the state, I'm sure we're in a much better position than many.
Correct. Our actuary report so that we are keeping.
Okay. Well, I just, again, looking at some of the losses that CalPERS booked, 29 billion this year, what their increased rate may reflect because of that is going to affect it.
If I may, Supervisor Peterson, you're very correct that the losses or the returns that they don't expect to receive will be passed down in the form of unfunded liabilities. But also pointed out by our Director of Finances, this is a long-term stretch, so we're hoping to see gains in the future, but we keep a very close eye on that because those loss of gains do equate to additional costs to us in the form of unfunded liabilities.
Right. I think this year, what the percentage was like 6% decline,
Yeah, it's downgraded from the 7 to 6 now.
Okay.
For future concerns, again, our employee benefits, CalPERS, the rise of our rates continues to be a concern for all local governments. Actually, 39% of our total salary and benefits make up a total of our $423 million budget. So, that is a future concern in the future to kind of administration is keeping an eye on. The labor market also across the country, public entities are seeking fiscal solutions to employee and benefit concerns in an effort to, counter affect the civilian labor market. And also the recession. Economics broadly agree that 2 straight quarters of negative growth are an indicator that county is in a recession that did occur. However, the job market is considered to be very hot right now. Our employment rate is at 3.5%. So that is something that administration is closely watching. Entitlement and benefits programs, we continue to see a rise in general fund contributions to the Human Services Agency. This is due to increase in mandate entitlements and benefit programs. Again, this is something that our administration is closely watching. And legislative changes. The state continues to create and expand and modify programs that create or shift additional financial burdens to counties, which eliminates, existing authority that county board of supervisors have to consolidate these duties. Some major highlights in our budget from our recommended to our final. We added $6 million in American Rescue Plan Act funding into the budget. This was approved by your board for some additional spending. We added also a jail medical contract amendment in the amount of $380,000 that was not included in the recommended budget. We already had a 3% escalation increase to their contract. However, that amendment was not included. We also had an HSA IHSS MOE increase that was not included, which was an additional $351,000 that was not included in our budget. And also, we had a couple positions in our minors advocacy unit and our finance department that were added to the final budget. Also, capital saw a $2 million increase for the new Kettleman City Bridge project that was also approved by your board. So we did include that in the budget. And there was some increases to our roads budget because of the vehicle purchases. We are still having some issues getting some of those vehicles. So those purchases weren't made in the current year. So we rolled those funds over. Additionally, in our Senate Bill 81, the juvenile jail juvenile hall remodel, we increased some of the actuals, so that's also included in the budget. Here is the budget equation for general fund. This is only general fund. So for historical purposes, on the far left, we like to always show the adopted budget compared to the recommended. So for the adopted fiscal year 21-22, we ended up with a large fund balance of 26.7 million. That was the highest we have ever had it. So we did allocate 6 million of that to designated reserves. Our contingencies were at 15.3. We had a available financing at 320 with total appropriations 286.1 million. We did place those 6 million in reserves, so we've been carrying those over. Now, we worked with departments again from March to June, and we came up with the recommended budget, which we presented on June 14th. At that time, we had a fund balance of 19.2 with current revenues at 298.3 million and available financing at 317.6. Expenditures were the same with contingencies at 9.6 at that time. At that time, we were anticipating recommending 608,000 to go to reserves because we did meet that threshold of 9 million in contingency. And this slide indicates the final budget equation. Again, we have for historical purposes the adopted, but on the far right, it is indicated our fund balance was still the same at 19.2 million. Our revenues did increase to 308.1 million with available financing at 327.3. Expenditures were the same at 327.3 million. Designated reserves were now at 230,000 and our contingencies were at 11.2. Here is another view of the general fund history. If you focus on the available bold column, it shows a 10-year recovery. In red, it is highlighted the 2009-2010 full impact of the recession where we infused 2.6 million of reserves left. We've been carrying about 1 million in reserves over, and this slide shows up until fiscal year 14-15. As you see, our contingencies continue to grow as well as beginning fund balance over the next 5 years from 2009. In 2016, 2017, again, we had a large fund balance just like we did last year for 2021. And we implemented raises. And then you can see by 17, 18, a direct correlation, our fund balance went down because of those raises. We will see something similar next year because we did increase those with those cost of living adjustments. Again, we started with a lower fund balance after that. And in 18, 19, and in 19, 20, our fund balance started growing back up again. Finally, again, last year, like I mentioned, we achieved that 9 million contingency goal with our fund balance growing. And at that time, we were able to finally put some funds aside for reserves.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Melissa Shuffle, Administrative Analyst. Next slide. This slide here shows the general fund net county cost by department to the county. These are costs the county has discretion over, signifying that the public safety is the #1 priority in the county. Next slide, please. This slide shows the cost change from prior year, the increased cost to the general fund from prior adopted 21-22 to what's being adopted today for the 22-23 final budget. The blue column shows the department and the orange column shows the cost increase amount. The yellow column shows the percent increase. In the budget book, the current budget book, you will find department level explanation for these departmental budgets. Next slide, please. This slide shows the cost change from prior year, the increased cost of internal service funds from prior adopted 21-22 to what's being adopted today for 22-23 final budget. The blue column shows the budget unit, the orange shows the cost increase and the amount, and the yellow column shows the percent increase. Next slide, please.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good morning. Domingo Cruz, one of your administrative analysts. The following charts will depict the county's total final expenditures and financing sources, the total general fund expenditures and financing sources, the discretionary expenses, and the overall position allocation that is needed to operate all functions of the county. Next slide, please. So this chart reflects all final expenditures in the county, which is 423.81 million. This includes all general funds, special revenues, such as the library, road, fire, tribal gaming, family support, and job training, the capital projects funds, and debt service funds. So for general government, we have 39.56 million, public safety, 117.54 million. The public transportation, we have 15.98 million. Health, 56.10 million. Public assistance, 125.89 million. The education and recreation, 6.1 million. Capital projects, 19.36 million. And all others, 43.28 million. Next slide, please. So in this chart, we see all the final financing sources, which is 423.81 million. Again, it includes all general funds, special revenues, capital project funds, and debt service funds. For fund balance, we have 49.08 million. The state federal, 230.26 million. Public safety, sales tax, 13.27 million. The hazardous waste tax, 1.28 million. General taxes, 67.3 million. The charges for services, 14.07 million. And the other revenues, 48.55 million. Next slide, please. In this chart, we have the final general fund expenditures, which is 327.33 million. For the general government, we have 26.78 million. Public assistance, 121.95 million. Health, 56.1 million. The education and recreation, 3.55 million. Public safety, 106.7 million. Debt services, 1.02 million. And contingencies, 11.23 million. Next slide, please. So this chart, we have the final general fund financing sources, which is 327.33 million. For state and federal, we have 198.01 million. Public safety, sales tax, 10.92 million. The hazardous waste tax, 1.28 million. General taxes, 55.12 million. Charges for services and fees, 13.3 million. Other revenues, 29.48 million. And then the fund balance, we have 9.23 million. Next slide, please. In this chart, it shows the general fund expenditures for fiscal year 2022-23 final budget of 327.33 million. And also points out that 84% or 274.28 million of the budget has no or very little discretion. This means that we cannot touch these funds. Only 53.05 million or 16% of the budget contains discretionary programs that are subject to reduction. For example, the sheriff, contingencies, probation, DA are just example again for those discretionary funds. I'd like to point out that when someone sees the county budget, the initial thought is that the county has 327.33 million to spend on, but in reality, only 53.05 million is discretionary. These are those departments that your board can decide to increase or decrease. Next slide, please.
All right, good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Matthew Boyette, Kings County Administration, another one of your administrative analysts here. So this slide here represents the our full-time equivalents, our FTE in the budget. So being brought before you today, our total FTE is 1,658.91. And that includes 54.5 adds along with 30.5 deletes. So all of that movement will add 24 FTE in this budget here. So we don't have any unfunded FTE in this budget this morning. And the 1,658.91 FTE is a 2.41% increase from what was adopted last year. But just as a point of reference here, there were several other department requests, various other adds and deletes that would have added an additional 5%, but those are not included in the final FTE numbers this morning. Next slide, please. And then this graph here shows a historical kind of illustration of all of the adopted budget FTEs going all the way back to fiscal year 11-12. And so if we look at last year, in fiscal year 21-22, we adopted 1,619.91 FTE. But throughout the course of last fiscal year, your board approved various adds and deletes from departments, which added 15 FTE to that, bringing the amended fiscal year 21-22 amount to 1,634.91. So if we take that amended amount and we add the 24 FTE that's included in this budget, that's where we get the final adopted figure in fiscal year 22-23 at 1,658.91 FTE. Next slide, please.
We do not have any contested budgets for the fiscal year. At this time, I would like to thank all the administration staff and all the department heads who came together to prepare the budget. We would like to open the discussion for any questions, and after questions, we would request to close budget hearings.
Thank you. Any questions from board members? Are there any questions from the audience? Everybody understands it? The test will be at 5 minutes. Everybody's ready?
I guess I have one.
Okay.
Got to ask one.
What the heck?
right? No, but I think it goes back to the use of ARPA funds in the 3%. And while that's one-time money going forward, that may not come from ARPA. So when you look at how that may compound over time and the impacts to the budget, how do you equate that? How do you look forward into next year and find that funding without taking from someone else?
So I'll bring back that budget equation just so we can highlight this discussion. So in our final budget equation, you see our contingencies at 11.2. So that includes the 2 million that we're going to be from the ARPA fund. So in reality, we have 9 million contingency, and we're going to infuse that 2 million for that 3%. We've had the discussion with department heads, and we anticipate that departments are going to be prepared to absorb the salary and benefits. I mean, we do have a lot of salary savings. That ends up making up for those additional costs. And so again, it's something that departments are prepared to look forward to next year, is that if they're prepared that we're going to give the 3% allocation, then they're going to have to help us to come to a balanced budget.
I have.
Very good.
I had a couple of them, Mr. Chairman.
Very good.
Thank you. The going to the projects that are proposed to be passed, everything that was submitted versus what's going to be here before the board today under capital outlay. Can you just tell me where I can find the 150,000 that the board approves every year for the Kettleman City Water Treatment Plant?
So that actually sits on an outside trust that's not reflected in the budget book. However, we do show the transfer out. It's not indicated in that budget unit for 7,000. It's actually in budget unit. It's called contribution to other funds.
And I'm just asking.
17900. Thank you, Matthew. In the budget book, we do indicate that 150,000 is going out to that outside trust. And also, I think it was
If
104.
I may, it's page 105.
105.
Okay.
Under-
I'm used to seeing it in this chart every year under capital outlay.
It's under core functions. The
What was
third
the page?
paragraph, 105,
Thank you.
excuse me, 105, under core functions, number 2, the third paragraph outlines the 150,000 for hazardous waste tax going to Kettleman City.
Okay, thank you. And then just two more quick ones. If I'm looking at this right, looking at projects that were submitted under, especially under the hazardous waste tax account. And I know we talked about a month ago, but I do want to just say it again because I say it every year. I think the Board of Supervisors should have at least more of that discretionary months in advance on that money, because you're looking at this year, 1.2 million. And I'm happy with what I see going into my district here for the bridge, for the curb gutter and sidewalks. I want to make sure that the board has ample opportunity to take a look at that funding for their districts versus it's a pot of money. Department heads are aware of it. They're way ahead of the board in the needs that our constituents relay to us on a day-to-day basis. And these projects get submitted, and then they just come up on budget day for approval. And the amount of discretionary funds is so small when you look at the big picture of the budget, right, on what we can actually control and what we can't control. But I would like the board to be made more aware so that the board can take a look at this months in advance, and then also have the opportunity to communicate with staff to say, hey, look, I just got this. I got this request in from such and such in our district. It's an opportunity for us that I feel that, this is going to be my 15th budget that I just hate passing on that opportunity every year. That being said, I'm understanding the process of who actually prioritizes these and puts these before the board. And I think there should be more fairness to that process versus one person, a county employee, being able to say yes to this and no to this to other department heads. It makes it harder for the board to be helpful here. So on that line, I don't know who wants to answer this, but so I'm reading this right. I'm seeing some projects here that I want to make sure are covered. Library put in a request. It was only $50,000 and it's for a refrigeration leak. It just happens to be the Avenel Library. Is that covered under here? Because if it is, I don't see it outlined in the same way that it is in the chart that shows the requested project. So I can't tell if that 50K is in what the board is being recommended to pass today.
Library has their own funds, so that request came in from their department and it is being paid by their own funds.
So they got the money to fix that
Yeah.
leak there?
Mhm.
Okay. The other one that kind of stands out when I look at priorities of this list is that another small request, it's only $45,000, but it's for protective ballistic glass. And this is in the DA's office. I'm not seeing that listed as approved on here. And to me, something like that, when it comes to public safety and something that an official is saying, hey, look, I need this. This is protective glass here for the safety of the employees. I just want to make sure that that is covered in here. And if not, then I want to hear the priority compared to the carpeting and paint and other things that's being requested and looks to be approved today. If the DA's very small request is not.
That project was requested in 2018 and it's been carried over the last few fiscal years. And initially it was like a larger amount. However, they had found some alternative for that project. And so at this time, we did not recommend it.
Okay, so then that comes before the board. And so just for a short conversation then, would now be the appropriate time to ask the board if they'd be willing just to add in another $45,000 to cover this versus taken away from another project.
Correct. However, I do want to indicate that we did communicate that with the department and they did agree with our recommendation.
Yeah, you tell them no. And I want to tell them yes. To me, that's something that's, if the sheriff asked for protective glass in his lobby, then I would I would hope that we approve something like that. And the district attorney is on the same level. Elected official who's asking and is telling the board that I need this to keep my staff safe. Because if they don't have this, and what's been happening over there, and if something happened and we've been put on notice since 2018, then I wouldn't want to feel responsible for that. When you had an elected official saying, hey, look, I need 45,000 to put protective glass. So anyways, that's what I would like to, that would be my only change to the whole budget. Just an additional 45,000 to purchase the glass. If that's still needed and if the DA is online and he wanted to chime in, I'd be fine with that too. But that's my only change of this whole budget.
And that's been there since 2010, you say?
2018.
18. I know they talked about it years ago. They had demonstrations of different glass, technology's changed over time too.
It's small, it's a minute change and something that gets accomplished.
It would just reduce some of our other, because it is balanced, it would reduce from another source, another project.
Unless we took a very small amount from some kind of contingency or the general fund.
We would,
So not, for you to not have to do that. I don't want to mess with anything that was already recommended to be approved. I'll respect the process, but I would like to see this added in.
it could come back also as a budget change if the department wants to submit an agenda item and bring it forward, at a later date if.
I'd like to accomplish it today.
Okay.
It sounds like 2018 to 2022. Is that too hard of a task to add another 45,000 today?
It would just change all our numbers.
Meaning you'd have to go reprint this book?
Correct.
So, okay, see, the book gets printed before we even vote on the budget. Why are we here?
We can bring back the resolution to adopt the budget at a different date if that's what your board discretion.
No, then I don't want to be a burden here today, but that's part of the process that I'd like to see changed. If we had the opportunity to talk about these prior to, like I said, I'm fine with the budget, but the concept of being locked into something, I can't even talk about a $45,000 change of this whole budget, then why are we here? So then on that, then I'll make sure the board is fine, but to bring that back as soon as possible, then in a format that doesn't affect your pre-printed budget book. Okay?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Can I ask, obviously departments have big budgets and multiple areas. Is there an area that, do you get into, how do I phrase this? A manager is a manager, right? You're in charge of your department. You have an understanding of the flow of funds and where they come from, an opportunity to spend those. And it becomes a personal choice at that time. And so with respect to the opportunity, I know nothing about the DA's, self-control of the budget and where he might find those funds. But do you have some insight into that or?
So for like the capital projects, I can kind of speak on those. We do meet annually with our Public Works Department and we kind of get all these submissions in and then we kind of review them. We see where the budget's at. Capital is real, it doesn't have a good funding source. So it's really the budget that we kind of focus at towards the end, once we see how everything else is balanced. And then we recommend by the priority on some of these projects, or is it causing a hazard, to the county? Then that's how we kind of prioritize. And that's why you're seeing some projects that weren't there and recommended because, by the time we meet in June, things have changed. And so there's things that need to be adjusted on the county grounds that are a capital project.
Great. So the alternative sources that were discussed, is there indications from the administration as where to find those or they're just recommendation or the department head is looking internally and saying, maybe I do have some funding over here that I can apply or grants or whatever?
Correct. They have the discretion and we constant communication with the department and they let us know, okay, this is how it's looking in this area. We can just, some expenditures on this side, we can do some expenditures on this side. But for capital and specific, those are recommendations usually from Public Works because they are the ones who kind of see what's going on with the facilities.
All right. Well, for me, it's just like, these are decisions that's in some circumstances are made by, department heads, and those are tough choices. Those are management choices that they're in that position to make those decisions. And if it's a high priority, they're going to find a way to fund those. And so, thank you. Answers.
Additional questions or comments, concerns? You gonna go forward with the hearing, or do you want to?
I'll make a motion to approve the budget as presented.
There's no contested budgets, and that tells me staff did their job, and I thank them, and department heads did their job, and I thank them. And second, Supervisor.
Thank you.
We'll close the public hearing then and bring it back. There is a motion to go ahead and accept the budget as presented. Moved by Verboen, seconded by Valley. Are there any additional questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs,
Yes.
Richard Valley,
Aye.
Doug Verboen,
Yes.
Craig Peterson,
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes.
Let the record show the budget stands approved, 5 in favor. Thank you very much, everyone. We also have the next public hearing, which deals with developmental impact fees. And I see Domingo Cruz has stepped up. So would you like to begin the discussion?
There, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good morning again. Domingo Cruz. This morning, I am here to request that your board hold a public hearing to receive testimony on the development impact fees, which includes a construction schedule of public facilities and a proposed adjustment to the fees. Adopt a resolution which includes a construction schedule, Exhibit A, for public facilities as detailed within ordinance number 633, establishing development impact fees in Kings County, and select one of the following options in regard to adjusting the development impact fees. Number one, adjust the development impact fees amount based on the percentage change in the engineering news record construction cost index, which is a 12.61% increase, having the new fees become effective October 10th, 2022. Number two, adjust the development impact fees amounts based on a percentage determined by your board. And number three, adopt no fee increase. The impact fees will remain at October 18, 2019 levels. So on June 21st, 2005, your board adopted ordinance number 633 for development impact fees. In order to collect the fees in an annual basis, it is required that we come back to your board and update the construction schedule and give you an update on the impact fee budget and everything that goes along with it. So in your agenda packet, you have the agenda item requesting for a public hearing, requesting adopting the resolution for the development impact fees, and to select an option in regard to adjusting the fees. There is also a copy of the resolution and several exhibits. Exhibit A is the construction schedule. The ordinance requires that the development of a construction schedule, which must be reviewed by your board annually. This schedule was part of the required 5-year report that your board approved on January 12, 2021. Exhibit B is the fee table, which updated by using the engineering news record construction cost index for the city of Los Angeles and the city of San Francisco. So going over the history of these fees in Kings County in the last 5 years, this year shows a proposed 12.61% increase in the fees. In 2017, it called for a 2.0% increase. Your board adopted a 2.0% increase. In 2018, it called for a 3.16% increase, and your board adopted a 0% increase. In 2019, it called for a 2.16% increase, and your board adopted a 2.16% increase. In 2020, it called for a 3.58% increase, and your board adopted a 0 increase. Last year in 2021, it called for a 1.59% increase, and your board adopted a 0% increase. Going over to Exhibit C, the impact fee financial report, it shows the history of all the financial of all the development impact fees. Since 2005 to 2006, when we started, we have accumulated about $10.9 million in impact fees. That's including the interest. To date, $6.6 million has been encumbered or spent, leaving a balance of about $4.3 million as of June 30th, 2022. And Exhibit D, which is the public facility fee change calculation, it is done in an annual basis, and we use the month of March to do that calculation, as mentioned earlier in the engineering use record. As far as the required 5-year report, the next one is due in 2025, as the current one was completed and approved by your board on January 12, 2021. So we did send out the required notices for this hearing on July 25th, 2022. We mailed those letters. These were sent to the Building and Industry Association of Tulare, the Kings Counties, the gas company, and the cities of Corcoran, Hanford, Lemoore, and Avenel. We also had a notice published in the Hanford Sentinel on July 26, 2022, and August 4, 2022. A representative from the Building Industry Association of Tulare and Kings Counties, Mr. James Brownyard, and he is on the line, reached out to us on July 28 and provided him the information that are being presented to your board this morning. Also, the Community Development Agency Director from State of Avenel called on August 4th and provided her the information requested. With that, and barring any questions, staff is recommending that your board hold a public hearing to receive the testimony and the development impact fees, which includes a construction schedule of public facilities and a proposed adjustment to the fees, adopt a resolution, which includes a construction schedule for public facilities as detailed within ordinance number 633, establishing development impact fees in Kings County, and select one of the following options in regard to adjusting the development impact fees. Number 1, adjust the development impact fee amounts based on the percentage change in the engineering use record construction cost index, which is a 12.61% increase, having the new fees become effective October 10, 2022. Number 2, adjust the development impact fee amounts based on a percentage determined by your board. And finally, adopt no fee increase, which the impact fees will remain at October 18, 2019 levels. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. Are there any questions for Mr. Cruz before we open the public hearing?
Do we get impact fees from our solar projects?
That's a negative there, Supervisor Bourbon.
Okay.
You don't.
Any other questions or comments? Hearing or seeing none, we'll open the public hearing for the purpose of receiving testimony regarding developmental impact fees. We do have an individual online that's joining us, and if you can state your name and then continue with your remarks this morning, good. Thank you for being here.
Good morning. My name is James Brownyard. I am representing the Building Industry Association of Tulare and Kings County. Basically, what one might call a Mitigation Fee Act specialist. I have several concerns with the increase. One, it's quite high, 12%. I understand that materials costs have gone up, especially lumber and steel in recent months. But with regards to some of your construction items, the Mitigation Fee Act is not allowed to be used for replacements, reimbursements, rehabilitation, those type of issues or needs. It's only be able to use for expansion of capacity or use by a growing public. By using a CPI or an inflationary index, you open up the original fee study to review and criticism, you might say. We have found some issues with the original fee study that was conducted in 2015 and adopted in 2016. We would recommend that the county create a new fee study that's relative to today. This is 7 years old. The needs have changed, and we would support the idea of doing a new fee study, having it come back to the county in the next 3 to 6 months. I'm available for any questions if you have any.
Very good, thank you. Any questions or comments?
Can I ask the gentleman a question, Mr. Chair? Good morning, sir. Thanks for being here. Richard Valley, represent District 2. If there's 3 options here today, obviously. One is to approve the 12.61% increase, or 1, adopt no increase. The other is to approve a fee increase, but determine a percentage here. So when I'm looking at reading these materials and seeing the 12% increase is based on an average of the city of LA and the city of San Francisco, narrowing down to the San Joaquin Valley and Kings County, what would you see as a fair increase if an increase had to move forward today?
If you were to do an increase, I would go along with the CPI, the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. CPI is 6.8, I think, which for the city of Hanford, that's what's listed specifically.
Thanks, sir.
I have some questions with respect to kind of just the general count and how that impact fee money is used later once it's collected. And we talked about a $10 million fund where it's housed and how it's determined to be used.
You want to take that now, or do you want to take it up after we close public hearing? Those sound like generic questions that we can answer after the.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds fine.
Does the clerk have any record of anyone that would like to give testimony at this time?
I do not have any written testimony and no speaker cards.
No speaker cards. Last call for anybody in chambers. Anyone that would like to address the item currently? Seeing no one come forward, we'll close public hearing and bring it back for discussion by the board. And Supervisor Peterson does have some questions regarding the operations of impact fees.
Do I need to state them again?
I think I've got it.
Okay.
So Supervisor Peterson, so in 2015, when we did the justification studies, they did base that on again, the population of the Kings County at that time, and the required construction of public facilities that needed at that time. And that was based on we had a construction plan, and based on the construction plan was in coordination with all the departments at that time. So with that, the construction requirements were laid out. And then again, in 2020, when we did a 5-year impact fee, that was again verified if those were needed. And they did verify that the fees at that time are still valid, based on the needs of the counties and the public facilities that needed to be either changed or
So
built.
just to be clear, that is a capital improvement fund?
Correct.
Yes.
Well, thank you for the information. I would agree that, I mean, we've had this issue before, crazy costs with respect to how they're implemented in large jurisdictions that is not relevant to the county. And I don't know how we go forward. I think that clearly the cost of building is well, it's went up and it's coming back down, so that goes up and down, but the impacts are real and I just don't know how to do that, but go ahead.
If it pleases the chairman, after review by county council, there's been changes to the law, or excuse me, the regulations that require, excuse me, a new review every 8 years. So that review comes due next year. So we are prime to review and do an additional study for this process to be rethought. So we have that opportunity coming very soon, and we will be taking those steps through an RFP process after this meeting.
Okay. And so does that mean that in your view, in a 1-year period, we have adequate capital on hand for the capital? We never have capital on hand for capital projects, but for the planned, any planned construction that may occur, and we're not going to change that in 1 year, that is still going to accrue at whatever rate is, but
Yeah, to answer your question, it would be dependent on what your board decides to adopt today. If there's a fee increase, it would of course help with our capital revenues. If there's none, then of course it wouldn't. But then we will make that adjustment again with the new study.
thank you.
Yes.
I don't know how much of this I was able to absorb from Dom's answer, and what I believe I'm not sure if this was exactly what Sue Peterson was asking, but when it says that that these fees that comes to the county, that they're eligible to be used to offset the impact of growth on government facilities. That's just talking about brick and mortar construction of buildings, or can the impact of growth on government facilities also be defined to a department, specifically fire department?
So the ordinance does specify which departments can receive these funds. Fire department is one of those, public safety, the library. Just drawing from memory here, making sure I don't miss anything. Animal control facilities, investigation facilities. So the ordinance is pretty specific on what these funds can be used for.
Currently, does any of these fees that we've had over the years go into the fire fund?
I can't answer that. I'm not sure if Kyria has that answer. Yeah, go ahead.
Can I take that? Supervisor Valley. So the impact fee, they have their own separate funds. If you look at your, the attachment C, the annual report. And it's probably an eye chart, but.
Exactly. It's about three font, three small.
Anyway,
Got a lot of paper left and not a lot of ink.
Yeah, as of right now, so we have the public protection. So that's include the DA, the sheriff probation. Right now, we have $260,354.75 on the funds. So as of June 30, we've collected $6,834,222. Out of those, we have encumbered $6.5 million. From the jail projects to the latest one for the SB 81, your board approved that 2 years ago for a 1.5 million to be transferred to that project. And then in last year, about 2.1 million. For the fire, currently we have 1.7 million. And the library, we have about 2.0 million. Sheriff and patrol investigation, we have 172,841. And then the service, animal services, so far we've collected since 2005, 13,257. And for the administration fees, the ordinance says that 2.5% is collected for admin fee for the processing, finance, administration of the fee. Currently, we have $23,423. So those are the financials. They are kept we separately. So like, for example, the SB 81 project, when we came to your board and asked you for impact fee, it is already moved to the SB 81 project.
Okay, so the 1.7 million, you're saying that if this is approved today, 1.7 additional to the fire fund, or you're saying that's what we've done over the last fiscal year?
That is what is collected. It is in the fund right now.
Okay. Okay, because when I look at that, I'm just wondering if there's any opportunity in this pot of money here, as we've been made well aware over the last few months of some shortcomings in fiscal resources to the Kings County Fire Department. And when you go back to Measure F, and Measure F obviously not passing amongst the voters, and whether or not there's an appetite here at our level to help cover some of those gaps that in necessities for Kings County Fire Department here at the county level. That being said, is there anything here in this pot of money moving forward that you would see as an opportunity for the board to talk about future allocations to Kings County Fire Department out of this pot of money?
Out of that pot of money, you do, as long as it's related to construction. In yours,
Well, the impact of growth, which, and if we're being told that the existing fire fund is outgrown where Kings County currently is, just even basing that on population wise, I think that there's a conversation that needs to be had on, Michelle, there's a conversation that needs to be had on dealing with that issue in the very near future. And I know Mr. Hill's trying to get my attention.
Yeah, thank you Supervisor Valley. The ordinance specifically designates it for the facilities and improvements of the facilities. Of course, your board has an opportunity to modify ordinances. I'm going to look to county council to make sure that I'm not saying anything that's improper. But these funds here today can only be used for facility improvements and expansion.
Okay, so based on that, the board, we just passed a lot of money for that out of capital outlay funds and some hazardous waste tax revenues, I assumed. So this is a pot of money that could have been used for those purposes, and that would free up that capital outlay money to do some of the things that we need to do, which is what I was talking about 20 minutes ago.
Yes, but these funds are already dedicated to projects as outlined in the exhibit.
Okay, no, I get that part. So then I guess my next question is, when do you see that money freeing up for that to be looked at again? That where these are revenues that are open to be used versus revenues that are already pre-designated?
It depends on the growth of the revenues. If there's no growth, then there's no additional revenues.
Okay. Okay. All right. Well, it's noted then. Thank you.
So when we did no fee increase the last 2 years because we were afraid of putting a burden on our society that was building, correct? Correct. So if we do this now, look it up right now, single family units, about $3,966 on impact fees. It adds an increase of $500 per home. So you look at it, it either would protect the people moving here and holding down the growth by putting more fees on a industry that's already going to be up against hard times when the recession hits, or do we take the money and, increase our buildings here? I don't know. I'm afraid to add increases at this point due to the uncertainty in the economy. I don't want to slow the growth of our community. I think we got good growth going on right now, and I don't want to impact it. I think we should wait a year, get the new schedule to see where we're at. Forget the guy's name online. He said he had a number. He was okay at 6%. Is that what he said?
6.8, James Brownyard.
So that would be about $250 per home increase in impact fees versus $500 at 12%. So this discussion, I don't know which way to go. I don't want to be the one that stopped my growth in my community. I know I saw what happened in Lemoore years ago, and we just can't start it back up because we're not in control. But we don't work for free either at the same time.
And rising interest costs, if they finance this through the construction, just
Right.
compounds it. So, I think your initial discussion of zero and allow the 8-year readjustment and reappraisal sounds like a good
Yeah,
direction, so.
I'm okay with that.
Especially when you talk about staying attractive, Lemoore, right? I know you're looking at trying to land the squadrons to NAS Lemoore, and looking at the number of personnel that comes with those squadrons might require additional housing too.
When they advertise a starter home in the low 400s, it's kind of scary.
Oh, man.
But this is not the price. That's just add another $4,000 or $3,000 to every home,
To the impact fees
Yeah.
of that construction.
which could make or break people. You were looking for a motion?
Well, if I could,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
Discussion,
Yeah.
or you still have discussions?
Yes, sir. And, with the proposed review of that fee increase, we've had this discussion before. The solar industry continues to impact, you look at the diversions of water from the state out of the Central Valley, the impacts, those lands by default moving to solar farms and large solar farms. I think we need to have a better handle on that. And I know that Kern County has been in the news recently. They have an impact fee. I think we need to do a better job of trying to understand that transition and how that affects, the county in general. And so I would like to include that in any fee review that takes place and bring that back with that as well.
Yeah, in accordance with Mr. Bromward's, and I'm sorry if I pronounced your last name incorrectly, comments, yes, things have changed and it would not hurt us to look at this again.
No impact, I mean, no increase, still has revenue coming in, right?
Yeah,
Correct. It just won't increase.
This is
Keep
going to
it
be
the
an
current
increase
rate.
of about $500 per single family home at 12%. So, it's about $180,000 to the county when it comes to about 360 homes a year, which is where we're at. I don't know if we're going to have that this year. They're building today. I don't know how long it'll take before the interest rates slow it down. So if I can make a motion, I'll just put a motion, we won't have any increase at this time. Come back and look at it, bring it back next year once we look at the new fee structure.
I would second that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Very good. There's a motion on the floor made by Verboen, seconded by Valley to leave no increase in the impact fees. Is there further discussion on that motion?
Yeah, so we've done it. This will be the third time we have no fee increase. And to the building industry, we should get credit for that, right?
Good.
Looking on screen right now, we should get credit for that because that's a pretty kind gesture and it helps the citizens as well. So we'll look back at it next year. We'll probably have a fee increase or an adjustment to this schedule. Hopefully, it's no more than 12% or 6%, and we're right in track with everybody else. So with that said, I have no more comments.
And he's not talking about campaign contributions. He's not saying that.
Yeah, when I did my health assessment, I didn't have a hamburger for lunch, but it didn't matter. It's still, what it costs is what it costs.
Yeah.
What it weighed, is what it weighed, and that was it.
I don't want to slow growth down. I'd like to see growth and see my town grow.
All right, any further discussion, clarifications? Hearing or seeing none, will the clerk please call the roll?
Joe Nevs.
Yes.
Richard Valley.
Aye.
Doug Verboen.
Yes.
Craig Peterson.
Aye.
Richard Fagundes.
Yes. Let the record show the item stands approved, unanimous by members present to have no increasing fees. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
That concludes all of the action on today's open meeting agenda. We do have two items in closed session regarding workers' comp that the board will take up during closed session. I do want to bring your attention, the Board of Equalization will be meeting on August 12th at 9 a.m. in these chambers. And then on August 16th at 8:30, the Board of Equalization will be meeting at 8:30 to equalize the roll. And then we have another Board of Equalization meeting on the 17th that you can add to your schedule. Our next regular scheduled meeting for the Board of Supervisors will be Tuesday, August 16th at 9 a.m. or 9:01, depends on if we use Supervisor Verboen's timepiece. But we will try to start right around 9 o'clock if everybody's in their chairs. With that, the board will move to closed session, take up the closed session items. Please have a safe trip home, and we will see you next time. Thank you very much.